Hi, Siddharth.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I hope I didn't pull you out of something to be here, right?
No. Absolutely fine, yaar. Work continues, yaar. So, work
Yeah.
continues.
So how have you been? This past year must have been very busy for you as well. You must have been
Busy?
really in the thick of things.
Absolutely. Can't complain. Can't complain at all. Busy and exciting at the same time.
Right. Right.
How are
Well,
things on camp? How are things on campus?
it's good. It's good. Things are slowly getting back to normal. Students are back on campus.
Oh,
The
they are?
PGPX students, the PGP, some of them. Not all of them. Some of them who had some connectivity issues and other kinds of issues, they are on campus. But cases are very, very few. It's almost down to zero now. And but the classes are happening online, so people are.
Oh, so even if the PGPXs are on campus, they can't go to classes in person.
No, all the classes are happening from their dorm rooms.
Okay, but the reason for being on campus is just interaction post classes.
So a lot of these people were having some issues, and obviously they were also going to be having these interaction classes, which obviously they will not have a lot of time for later on because they pass out in just a couple of months, right?
Right.
For the PGP ones, PGP twos already had that opportunity. PGP ones are going to have that opportunity now, but for the PGPX they won't have that. So
Right,
it's a
right.
and also the placements are there, so a lot of coordination is required. A lot of so that helps for them to be.
So with the plan with the PGP2, oh yeah, so I'm assuming that PGP2s next year will definitely continue. I mean, be on campus, right? That's the plan for now.
Yes, yes, that is the plan for now because slowly even the undergrad courses are opening up, the schools are opening up. It was earlier just 9, 10, 11, 12. Now it's even 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, and all those things. So we'll see that a lot of
Arpi
younger
wala
people,
chashma le aao.
a lot
Yeah.
of the younger classes will also start opening up. So I think things are almost getting normal there.
I'm assuming I've heard that a lot of new dorms have been created on campus.
They are being created, in the process of being created. So when were you here last on
Yeah,
campus?
I think 2017 or 18, been a while.
But I think, yeah, the construction had not started then. Yeah, so
No,
there's a
no.
lot of construction happening now. So a lot
Huh?
of new dorms coming up and adjacent to the dorms in the new campus.
Okay.
And the entire area towards the left when you enter the new campus, just when you
Right.
enter from the gate, that entire huge ground that was there,
Yeah.
that entire ground construction is going on over there. There's new academic blocks coming up. There is a large multi-storied, big forum tower in a sense that's coming up over there. Then you will have a sports complex, a large swimming pool, and the JSW School of Public Policy. So that entire space is going to be full. There's no more uh, empty space available in the new campus anymore.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
wow.
And along with that, there is construction happening in the main campus where there is more faculty housing and student housing, staff housing being built.
But where is the space in the main campus? There wasn't a lot of space, right?
So right next to the Azad Gate,
Okay. Okay.
right? So a
Okay.
lot of these places, the houses that were there, they were
Right.
demolished.
Right.
Yeah. So the staff houses were demolished, and the space that was created over there, that's being used to create multi-story buildings. I think that's about eight.
Oh, these are all I remember just G+1 buildings.
Yes. So
And
now you have
now
about, I think, 8 to 10 stories being
okay.
built over there.
Okay.
Multiple buildings coming up for
Okay.
for staff as well as faculty. So lots
Oh
of
nice.
interesting stuff happening. In fact, there is this restoration work that has happened on the LKP on the faculty wing side as well. So that
Okay.
entire wing is blocked. So restoration work is happening over there, and there is all these offices have been moved towards to adjacent to the parking lot. When you enter the main campus on the right hand side, there is to be that parking lot.
Right.
So a row of offices have been created over there. So all directors and deans and several faculties have moved over there.
So they are no longer in the academic block
They're
right now.
not in the faculty wing anymore. So wing 5, wing 6, all those things up to 12, 14, they're all gone. I mean, gone in the sense that restoration work is
Restoration work is happening so right now.
happening over there. So it's all off limits.
And there's a lot of chatter around here, restoration of dorm and all of that. वो क्या हो कर रहा है finally?
So there was a lot of pushback. So obviously, when the institute took the decision, it was a considered decision already, because
Yeah.
we've had several rounds of meetings with the architects, with the restoration people, with the alumni body, and obviously at the institute level with the faculty council meeting and stuff. So all that had already gone through, and in fact, we also did a test restoration of Dom 15, right?
Huh.
And also the library, and the library work got an award from UNESCO. But if you look at the library now, there are fine cracks coming up over there even now. So we just received an award for it, but how fragile is that, right? So you
Right.
still have those cracks coming up, and how do we attest to the longevity of any of that, right?
Yeah.
And if you build something now, it has to last for at least 50 years. You can't go on restoring again after 10-15 years, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
cannot be a
It's
continuous process.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so that was there, but then there was a lot of pushback that came up from some alumni, but a lot of it was from the Louis Kahn family people, from architects from abroad and in India. And they were saying that if you cannot do it, then hand it over to the Archaeological Survey of India. Anyway, all sorts of arguments came up over there. But
No, but yeah, I think restoration, I mean, or whatever you have to, because I remember Dom 12, we had like bats, and it was, I mean, especially during rains, there was algae and all of that. And there is I think, a dire need to upgrade the facilities, right? But I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I fail to realize what is the first order implication, and then people often have a personal implication or stuff like that behind it, right? That you can never measure what is actually happening and not happening.
right, right, and there's a lot of emotional connect with that for alumni for sure, but also for several of the architects, because they've been looking up to it as something that's that you can emulate, or something that's really prized, and it's become heritage, right? So if
Right.
once it's heritage, you try to do everything possible to sort of preserve it. But then obviously the first, who are the primary stakeholders and who are the secondary stakeholders? The primary stakeholders are the people who are going to be living in it, who are
Exactly. I mean, you can't have
essentially,
the primary institute of the country students feeling unsafe.
yeah. So that's the primary thing. I mean, the students feel unsafe, and how what does that tell us about the institute? I mean, you cannot have students living in that. I mean, there will obviously be situations where parents will say that I can't have my child living in this kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
situation, and it'll come
Yeah.
up. I mean, obviously sooner or later, if it's not addressed satisfactorily. So
So now what, things are at a pause?
things are at a pause, in a sense that all the inputs that came in were all collated and taken up to the board, and so the board discussed all of it. And so the final decision at this point in time is that it is going to be opened up to other stakeholders. The board is going to consult with architects and other people to see what is the best thing that can be done given the circumstances. Obviously, we still are very clear that the primary stakeholders are going to be the students and the institute community, uh, and who are going to be using this space, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
बाहर से architect आके बोले कि I love to look at it, ठीक है, बहुत अच्छी बात है. Will you please stay there?
I think what, if anybody comes and takes a look at that firsthand, they are going to be pretty much convinced that something needs to be done immediately, right?
Immediately, exactly. I
Yeah,
think the important word is immediately. The word is not
yeah,
ki you have to do it. The word is immediately do it.
right. And but the point is that yes, there is a group of people who said yes, something needs to be done immediately, but you don't need to raise it down, and you can restore it. But even if you restore it, just like in the case of the library, cracks is already coming up. What do you do in that case? So
Yeah.
what you can do is, again, you raise it down, but build it up exactly the same way. That is again another option, right?
Hmm.
But then how do you make it exactly the same way and also be future ready, right? You want all the future ready facilities to be built in over there, right? So for all the newer students who are going to be coming in, right, and they will have higher expectations of what the living conditions should be like, right? All the facilities that they should be
Yeah.
giving in, the Wi-Fi and all the other electronic facilities that you might want. You might also even want to have the bathroom and the lavatory within their rooms, right? So all sorts of requirements that might come up in the future, right? So, and that's where it's not that that's something that's aspirational for us. It's actually become at par for everybody. Any new institute that's coming up, most of these good institutions of any caliber are actually providing these features to their students, these
Yeah,
facilities to
yeah.
their
It
students.
is a
It's not even an
it's a
aspirational thing
luxury.
that we are, I mean,
It
we
is
are saying
at
that
par. It
it's
is
at
not a
par now.
luxury anymore.
Yeah,
People require temperature regulation, AC होना
right,
चाहिए, personal private bathroom होना चाहिए. That is necessity.
right. So the things that we are having to fight for are these things, right, which are necessities in a sense. If we so anyway, let's see how that goes.
Hmm.
So
And the JSW School of Public Policy is gonna be a. I mean, it's a department. Or it's gonna give a separate course.
So it's going to be a separate course, but we
Okay.
are building up to that, right? So there are a lot of interactions, courses in the sense, short, speaker sessions and all those things have come up. A lot of research work already happening. Faculty is already working on it. So we had, several people, some very, very prominent people who already come. Ex-president of India, Pranab Mukherjee, he had come. He delivered lectures as part of that. Lots of interactions with faculty abroad. So a lot of work is being built up, but obviously the construction is on parallelly. So once that there is an
The
executive committee
idea
in
is
place.
to build this out on the lines of the Harvard Kennedy School of Public Policy, something like that.
Yes, the obviously we want to be the best in this part of the world. The idea is also to be structuring something on similar lines, but obviously for this part of the world, and also create a platform which can be utilized all over. Right. We will also have collaborations with other institutions. So that's the idea there. Um, but also it's also in a sense it's meaningful because public policy is essentially a huge part of business these days. I mean, you are guided by. I mean, it's always been the case, um, but the rapid pace in which things are changing and policy is, sort of catching up to it. You it presents an opportunity for us to shape those policies as well, and so that's why it's very important for technocrats and people from the corporate world to share their inputs and also help in that process.
Right.
It's an important thing. I think that's why it absolutely makes sense to have that, and that's why we have it. So yeah.
Oh, nice. And I'm assuming JSW has been kind enough to make some whatever endowment or contribution towards making that.
It's this thing whole thing has started based on their contribution, so we are absolutely completely indebted to that, but
Nice, nice. I think that's a good way for the institute also to, in a way, become self-reliant. Ki you are not
yes.
dependent on government or fees, right? I
So
think.
we've not been dependent on the government for many years now. I think close to a couple of decades now.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so that presents us with a lot of flexibility in terms of what we can do within the confines of the law, of course. But a lot of those things also became available to us, the things that we wanted to do because of the IIM Act. That also provides some amount of flexibility, not to the same extent as we wanted to, but obviously some of it has come our way. So it's good. It's going in the right direction. Yeah.
Great. Great.
Well,
Awesome.
I want to come back to the main topic that I
Yes.
have you here for. Congratulations on being awarded the Young Alumni Achievers Award. And you are one of the youngest awardees so far. How do you feel about it?
I think it. I feel very honored to say the least that as one of the youngest awardees, I get a chance, to be recognized by the institute. So I'm very very happy, very delighted. I still think of myself very often on the other side as a student because it's not even been 8 years since I've come out, but now I think it feels really nice, really nice.
Good, good. So, what are your, some of your fondest memories from campus? Like, what did you like to do? Where did you hang out?
So I think the fondest memories from campus obviously are not just within class, but what happens outside of class. I think I made some of my best friends over there, right? For me, it was the first time ever being out from home because my college was in Mumbai and I was born and brought up in Mumbai. So I think just coming out, hanging out with friends and a lot of those, I think was quite something, right? So uh, I think the fun that I had with my dorm mates and with some of my best friends from my section, I think that's something that I'll always remember.
Great. You've had a terrific journey since leaving campus. So, how would you describe that? I mean, people see the massive success, but most don't know of the hard work and struggle that has gone into it. So I want you to focus on the initial days of the struggle when you and your family had put everything at stake?
I think that was a literally a trial by fire. I mean, जैसे like we say in our mother tongue, Agni Pariksha thi for a very very long period of time, and I think it was the conviction of my family more than anything, and those that were with us, right, our earliest employees, our earliest stakeholders, our earliest partners that took us through. So everybody knows of the hockey stick curve that's happened since 2015, 2016 when we started growing and so on and so forth. But very few are aware of the challenges we faced from 2012 to 2015, or especially 2012 to 14. Uh, uh, a lot of people might or might not know, but actually, I had formed the company while leaving campus. So I still have the presentation, which I had prepared as part of the Cine course under Professor Anil Gupta, where the project that I had undertaken was to start an online pharmacy in India. And I think I was amongst the only group of people who actually started a company while I was on campus, right? So uh, a lot of people say, hey, we thought of this on campus, this happened. I actually, in a way, started it on campus, right? I mean, in my last uh, class is where I presented an idea of what an online pharmacy should be in the country and how online pharmacy will tomorrow become e-health and overall become a single digital platform for outpatient in India. Even today, I still think I'm still following that same dream, right? It's just evolution on that path, but what I started on campus is what is living with me. But the first years were a lot of issues because at that point of time, there was no such concept of an online pharmacy. There was no concept of digitization in healthcare. There was no concept of anything that remotely was trying to change the status quo, because the way the industry was working was more or less similar for the last 20 to 30 years. So while FMCG and telecom and lot of other consumer industry had evolved over a period of time, there was very uh, very limited innovation happening over here, right? And I think which is what took a lot of time, right? There were a lot of barriers to break. A lot of people who were very happy with the status quo uh, had to be uh, obviously naturally had a lot of resistance to us, right? And we had issues like obviously people are not ready to fund us. There are people who actually sent gundas to our place. There was vandalism at our hospital. I mean, at our hospital pharmacies, at our people who sent gundas to our residences, dhamkaed our parents. There are people who removed morchas. Our people were beaten up. All of these things had happened, right? And I think it was a natural trial by fire. But that really hardened us to what was there. And what that meant is that while for 2025, a lot of very rigid institutions were created, uh, and it was difficult for us to break in, but we knew once we broke in or once we could change, that change would be very, very drastic. Otherwise, in most places, you are making incremental change. Here, the change would be really drastic. And the people who were able to appreciate the change, right, that is the customers or retailers or whoever was working with us, I think that then made a huge difference in that, right? So, and to put it in real time perspective, we started as dialhealth.com, which was a website which failed. Then we started as Dial Health chain of retail stores, which failed. Then we started our distribution business, which did well. And it's on the back of our distribution business where we co-opted retailers and converted a B2B business into a business where we had a B2B business, but also got demand for these retailers, right? And started the online business, right? So I think it was an entire journey. So most people are aware, hey, these guys have a fantastic B2B business. They work with 50,000 retailers, and these 50,000 retailers in terms of whatever, 1 crore patients. But it didn't start like that, right? I mean, so while the idea was there, we knew this is what we wanted to do, but had no clue how to go about it, right? And I think that Agni Pariksha has perhaps helped us and kept us in good stead now.
And so, in a very short span of time, you've achieved a lot. I mean, your achievements are, I mean, extremely impressive. And I'll quote a few numbers, but I'm sure the numbers must have become even better now, right? And so, Ascent and PharmEasy, now merged as API Holdings, form the largest digital healthcare platform in India, connecting patients, practitioners, pharmacies, and it is now the third largest buyer of medicines in India, and accounting for around 3% of medicines sold in India. Ascent Health and Retail.io connects 500 pharmacy companies through 1,200 pharmacy distributors with 50,000 retailers in 35 cities of India. I'm sure the numbers are much different now and much better. And PharmEasy is India's leading e-pharmacy with over 5 million app downloads and over 700,000 fulfilled orders every month. So can you just give us an overview of the entire, the structure, the organization that you built, and why is it able to grow so fast?
So think of it this way, that typically within uh, the healthcare piece, within the outpatients piece, a large part of the money is spent by patients on medicines today, right? Almost more than two-thirds of the money is spent on medicines. Within that, you have four critical stakeholders. You have the pharma company, you have the pharmacy, which is the retailer, you have the patient, and you have the practitioner, which is the doctor. We've created a digital platform that connects each of these interactions, right? So it's an entirely full stack model. So now at the back end, for example, we have close to 2,000 plus pharma companies and distributors that connect to over 65,000 retailers at the front end, right? And on a monthly basis, our platforms have a transaction value in terms of medicines alone in excess of almost 600 crores per month, right? So these retailers are ordering 600 crores worth of medicines through our platforms, and the reach has gone from 35 cities to more than 85 cities in the country. So think of it like the Amazon equivalent for ordering medicines, but by retailers, right? Now, what we do is, so you're solving for the supply of the retailers. Now, typically these retailers had to, let's say on a Monday, get medicines of Sun Pharma, on a Tuesday, get medicines of Cipla, so on and so forth, right? And work with very small distributors. We've created a single platform and we manage everything. We buy the medicines directly from pharma companies, put it in our warehouse. We do the logistics and supply chain and typically deliver within 4 to 6 hours. And we provide credit. So it's an end-to-end solution, right? And obviously, along with credit, obviously payment integration, payment reconciliation, so on and so forth. The next leg is we in turn tell these retailers that we will not just help you with supply, we will also get demand. And that demand comes through our app PharmEasy, where a patient can place an order and the medicine or the order with the prescription goes to the pharmacy within that zip code or in that vicinity based on certain algorithms, availability, turnaround time, rating, so on and so forth. And from there, the medicine get picked up and delivered to the customer. We also now own, we've just acquired last year a platform called MedLife, which was the second largest e-pharmacy in the country. Now, between PharmEasy and MedLife, we do close to about 200 crores of additional transaction volume, right? And more than 10 lakh patients every month, and cumulatively more than 1 crore patients served. So that is the leg between the pharmacy and the patient. The next leg is between the patient and the practitioner, where we run the largest telemedicine platform today in the country. Between both MedLife and PharmEasy, we serve more than 5 lakh patients on a telemedicine platform. And we also own the largest e-medical records platform in India, which today is with more than 6,000 doctors, 3,000 of them using it as their only means of communicating with patients. And these doctors see anywhere between 6 lakh to 9 lakh patients every single month. So what we've done is we've created a digital ecosystem that connects each of these legs, right? And how does it all come together? If you look at it from a consumer's perspective, whether you want to order the medicine online or you want to go and pick up the medicine offline, whether you want the medicine delivered at home or you want it to be picked up from the store, we have taken care of all use cases of demand and supply in very simplistic terms. And through our digital interventions, rather than recreating 10,000 or owning 30,000 or 15,000 pharmacies or recreating the supply chain, what we are doing is we are rewiring the physical infrastructure with our digital infrastructure on top. And a parallel example would be globally, the world went from cash to checks, from checks to card, and card to digital. In India, you directly went from cash to UPI, which is digital. I think we are leapfrogging that in the healthcare context in India, right? We are a country which does not have any kind of OPD insurance, any kind of digital place. We are creating an ecosystem where rather than spending years and decades to recreate the physical infrastructure, we are just overlaying a digital infrastructure on top of this to get efficiencies and make the consumer ultimately benefit in terms of access and affordability in healthcare.
So I guess that explains why the growth is so fast, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so India is, of course, primarily a branded generics market. So how did you, and the supply chain is very fragmented as well, it used to be, but how did you address the opportunity that it presented in and make it work for you?
See, I think being branded generic is part of the challenge and a big opportunity. Unlike the US or most developed countries where the doctor will prescribe the name of a molecule, here you are prescribed the name of a brand. But what that means is that there are 2 lakh SKUs in India. The average size of a pharmacy, let's take even the pharmacy that we have on campus, is about 300 square feet. They'll not have more than 3 to 4,000 SKUs. By definition, you will never get all the medicines that you need at that pharmacy, right? Which is why consumers typically go to pharmacy A, not get the medicines, go to B, go to C, go to D. Which is where we come in and say, hey, you don't have to go to 100 places. You come to our platform, we'll ensure that you get all the medicines that you need and at the most affordable rate. Now, the problem is the pharmacy itself also cannot solve this because pharmacy will then have to work with 100 different suppliers to make that work. Which is where we come in and say, hey, I'm going to help you consolidate at the back end also. So you take care of the demand, you take care of the supply, but ultimate objective is for it to become a single point of connect for the consumer and the patient. And the idea is that once you are a patient which has a non-communicable disease, it is unfortunate that you will have to be on medicines for a lifetime, right? So buying medicines is a affair every month, right? So you're interacting 10 times, 12 times, 15 times with your pharmacy. But there is very little value addition a pharmacy can do to your life. But with us, once you are on a platform, the idea is if you're a diabetic, right, we can ensure that your tests are done at the right time, right? We can help you get your HbA1c measured. We can help you with your devices. We can help you with your annual diagnostics. We can help you with your supplements. You can become a holistic point of care in the outpatient ecosystem, right? And you don't have to do anything extra. You're already interacting with me 10 times, 12 times, right? But there is no value addition which is done by somebody, right? Here you become a part of a patient's life, which is not just doing the job of dispensing medicines, but you're becoming basically a adherence program for a patient to adhere to a certain medical protocol that ultimately is resulting into a better outcome.
And what are the so in the e-pharmaceutical space, do you see any other additional challenges? I think you've already solved for a few, but do you see any additional challenges that you're facing right now or that you are likely to face in the near future?
I think the biggest challenge today is that we are still in a large way, we don't have any kind of insurance ecosystem in the outpatient space in the country. Globally, if you go visit a doctor, you get a test done or you buy medicines, the insurer covers it. Now, the insurer may say, if you want a branded medicine, a high-end medicine, there is a co-pay model, which means you pay a part of the cost, but the rest is covered by insurance. In India, you don't have that except for a very small section of people, right? Our insurance is modeled on the basis of almost like a life insurance. Our health insurance will wait for a catastrophe to happen, right? So if I take my medicines every year for the next 20 years, it will not pay me. But if I get a bypass surgery done at the age of 60, God forbid, it will pay me 10 lakh rupees for the bypass surgery. It's waiting for the catastrophe to happen and then give a payout. I think what we need to evolve to is a model where the insurance is almost like a customized healthcare provider, right? Or a payer for your health, right? Where you're transferring the risk for management of health, not only for an adverse outcome, which is what happens globally, right? So now it may be tiered layer where at a certain premium, you will get certain kinds of treatment taken care of, at a certain premium, something else, so on and so forth. But I believe leaving outpatient care, primary care out is a big reason where people have to pay out of pocket. And a lot of times your unaffordability in paying that out of pocket will mean that you are not working at the preventive stage and then going to a stage where a catastrophe is waiting to happen. I think if you take care of this and create a robust outpatient insurance program, that is something which will be a big, big, big change in the way you look at healthcare in the country. The problem is in adjudication of that program, right? How do you prevent frauds? How do you prevent real time or how do you give real time treatment, right? Now that cannot be centralized. In a hospital, I can create a tech network of 10,000 hospitals and saying, you come here, you do this procedure, I'll take care of it. For outpatient, I can be any part. It has to go to the last level. And at that last level, either you can spend decades and hundreds and thousands and lakhs of crores of rupees to create that physical infrastructure, or you create a digital footprint on top of this, where you say, we'll leverage the existing infrastructure, but the technology will do the real-time adjudication, right? And that is what I think is the biggest challenge and the opportunity of our times in the country.
And so you've been focused on radical reform, obviously, the way you've been sort of, completely redesigning the process. But are there any such, revolutionary ideas or revolutionary ways of redesigning the whole thing that you're working on right now? Something, whatever you can share. It's not, that might be things you may not be able to share.
So I think our large part of our focus, our first focus was to figure out how can we integrate the supply for medicines, because that is the largest part of out of pocket expense, right? Today. So as an example, if you take somebody living in a metro, the cost of seeing a doctor is maybe 500 to 1,000 rupees per visit. Even if you see a doctor twice a year, it's 2,000 rupees at the higher end. The cost of your test is maybe 1,000 to 2,000 rupees a year. But the cost of medicine is between 1,000 to 2,000 rupees a month. So on an annual basis, if you look at it, 70-80% of your money is spent on medicine, supplements, so on and so forth. So our first job was to create an entirely digitally integrated ecosystem there. But once you do that, your ability to then create a digital ecosystem for tests, treatment, interaction with doctors, so on and so forth, and bring all of this under one ambit, right? Where the payment is not out of pocket, but as part of your outpatient insurance, right? I think that is the next big thing we are working on. But it is all a stepping stone. I cannot create an outpatient insurance unless and until I have figured out a way to deliver medicine, which is the largest component of outpatient care, digitally. So this is the building block. But I think on top of this, our aim and objective is that hopefully in the next 3 to 4 years, we create enough digital infrastructure and enough digital network such that you can get any service, whether it is a test, whether it is a consultation or a medicine, delivered to any person in any zip code of the country in under 3 to 4 hours, right? But once you're able to do that digitally, then you can create a smart layer on top of it, which will become the layer of the payer or the insurer on top of this. Today, I'm proud to say that we are able to deliver medicine in every zip code of the country. We are still not there in terms of delivering tests in every zip code of the country, right? But I think once you do that and then consultations and you improve on the turnaround time, that is when you'll be able to create this, layer of on top, right? So I think our objective is to go beyond transactions or a person who's delivering medicines to a person who's your adherence partner in healthcare in outpatient insurance.
And so obviously, these times have presented a lot of opportunity there, and because some of those technologies already existed, some of those mindsets have also changed. So it's making some of those things much more palatable and acceptable. But what, according to you, does it take to be a good entrepreneur in the current context? And what would you tell somebody who's looking to take the plunge? I mean, the pace of change has only become more rapid. So context and landscape will change over time. But are there any general principles that you think will help budding entrepreneurs navigate irrespective of the times? And are there any specific ideas or advice that you would give the current crop to take advantage of the opportunities in the vastly different world post-COVID?
I think one thing which has happened is that the last 1 year has taught all of us a lot of things. I think humility, acceptance that a lot of things are not under our control. I think these are, and empathy. I think these are 3 things that have come extremely strongly to a lot of people, right? And I can say that with personal experience because unfortunately my mother had COVID in the last week of June and she was hospitalized for some time. Luckily she recovered and she came out, right? But what that does is makes you really connected back to the ground in terms of where you are, how you are. The second thing which I think has happened as a result of this is people are not afraid to literally change the way they were or the way they are in terms of their health, in terms of their lifestyle, in the way they connect. Who would have thought that students at IIMA would take digital lectures? Who would have thought that people would be absolutely happy to go on a digital platform and start talking to doctors, right? Where people said, oh, I have to actually touch the patient, right? I'm giving you examples. We are changed in ways that we could have not thought. And I think that presents a outstanding opportunity for people to build models for the new India or the new Bharat. as you know, as you colloquially start calling it. And I think if you have empathy and if you have humility, right, and along with what I would like to call the passion, perseverance, and the pivot model, I think that can make a huge difference, right? So, you need to be really, really deeply passionate about, right? I think startup is not a, it's not a side fling, right? And maybe I wasn't wise enough or smart enough, but for the first 3 years, I was only losing money head over heels, right? And there was a time when everything that my family owned was mortgaged, right? But without that kind of passion, right, or like a lot of us say in poker, you have to be all in. There is no other way to play the game, right? But you need to know where are you going to then draw the line in terms of that passion also having the ability to pivot. So you need to be passionate about the problem you're solving, but not necessarily about the approach, right? So we started with dialhealth.com. We changed it to a retail store. We changed it to physical distribution, digital distribution, then online pharmacy, right? It was only in our fourth and fifth avatar that we were able to make things work. PharmEasy is nothing else but Dial Health version 2.0. We all know that. But Dial Health was launched in June 2012. PharmEasy was launched in March 2015. Nobody knows what happened from that June 2012 to March 2015 was nothing but a lot of failure and a lot of pivots. So while we were passionate about solving the problem, you need to know when to pivot, right? And last but not the least, you have to be perseverant, right? And that goes without saying. I think that is table stakes to be successful in anything in life, right? But I think if these three are there, I believe that the venture ecosystem today in India is far more conducive than what it was when I came out. And it'll only get better. Because as people hear of more and more success stories, the ability for people to be able to get the capital required in order to implement their pilot will always be there, right? And I think there is no better time than today to build something, especially to folks, especially to folks who are coming out from the PGP program, right? If people do not have a lot of liabilities on their head, I would very strongly encourage them to start building as soon as they leave campus, right? Because you are young, you still don't have, I would assume, a lot of responsibilities from the family, or those can be pushed out by a year or two if possible, right? But that is the best time to experiment, right? I mean, I'm 32 today. I have a wife. In a couple of years, I'll have a family. It's very difficult if I was in a job to leave that safety net for the sake of my family and start doing something, right? I was lucky that when I graduated, I was 23. I wasn't married. I didn't have responsibilities. I could take those 2 or 3 years to experiment. Had I failed at 26, I could have always come back to a job and married at 27 and so on and so forth. And I don't mean to say that marriage is a responsibility or a family is a responsibility, but we have to be cognizant of the safety net that you'll want to create for your near and dear ones, whatever or whoever they may be. But when you don't have them, right? I'm a firm believer, and especially for me, because I had no work experience, right? I did not work before coming into IIMA. The only job I ever did was for 2 months with Goldman Sachs in the IBD team. And I loved that team, right? But in fact, those 2 months were the ones that made me realize that I'm absolutely unfit for a job, right? I think if you have enough passion, perseverance, and ability to, and I have that humility to pivot when required, right? I think the best time to start is as soon as you're leaving campus.
I think you've mentioned all the things. I think I'm glad you mentioned passion, but I think and you've intentionally pursued the ideas. But I think partnerships also are something that form the bedrock of what you build together, right? And can you shed some light on that? I mean, I think you've had founders with you, right? Co-founders, and there
Oh,
was a lot of
absolutely.
support that you received from them during the struggle days.
Oh, absolutely. I think without support, I don't think I would have been where I am today, right? So, uh, without the support of my then girlfriend and my wife, without the support of my parents, without the support of the folks in my community, I don't think I would have come this far. But most importantly, my co-founders, right? And the teams that we got alongside. Uh, my first co-founder, Hardik, he was actually, I still think he's the smarter one amongst us. He went to CMU to do his master's. He was working with NetApp, which was a dream job at that time, right? But all it took was a 1 hour conversation with him for him to send a resignation email to the founder of NetApp and then call up his parents saying, hey, I've resigned and I'm coming back to India in a month's time, right? And he literally took a flight back. It was a few months later that Harsh, who was my next co-founder, who joined me. And we went to the journey of dial.com to, so Hardik and I did the journey of dial.com. Once Harsh came in, we started the retail pharmacies and then pivoted to distribution. And then I was fortunate that my friend from school, Dharmil, joined me in March 2015 to launch PharmEasy with me. And then a few months later, Dhaval, who was my friend in junior college, came and joined in. But I think all of us knew each other for very, very long. That meant that we were not double guessing each other. Uh, and it wasn't just my family that was digging the trenches with me. Even Hardik's family had mortgaged the only home that they own uh, in order for us to raise some debt and put some money. Now, I wouldn't ever encourage anybody to do something like that, right? Please don't mortgage your homes in order to do that. We took a big risk. Our risk paid off. Had it not paid off, uh, right, I would have been the biggest fool. That would have not just lost what I own, but even what my family had built very religiously over their entire lifetime. But long story short, the point is you have to go all in and you need people who will believe in you. Whether they are your family, they're your friend, they're your co-founders, but you will need people who will believe in you. Right? There were times when we literally did not know how we would pay the salary for the next month. Right? But somebody somehow came and helped us. Right? And that help was only because we were not afraid to even reach out and ask people, hey, will we do this? And I think the big reason for our success has been grounded in that failure, that when we were in bad times, there were people who came and partnered with us, right? And those partnerships form the bedrock of our foundation today, right? So even today, like I said, rather than recreating the supply chain, we are partnering with 2,000 distributors for the supplies. Rather than recreating the retail chain, we are partnering with 60,000 retailers, right? And I think that ethos of partnership, of leveraging what you have and building on top of that, comes a lot from the early days of struggle and humility, where it is partnerships that saved us.
Let's talk about one of your other passions. Right, you're a three-time national karting champion with 10 national level race victories. You are also part of the team that won the country's first 24-hour Asia Pacific International Kart Enduro Championship. So tell us something about your karting interest and experiences, and what's been your most memorable memories from those times.
So I think
And do you still do that?
I would love to karts today. Still, unfortunately, we don't have a very good karting track in Mumbai anymore. I think most of the karting tracks have now converted into some kind of high rises or stuff like that. One of my uh, life's dream is to at least create a great karting track, if not in Mumbai, in the vicinity of Mumbai. It's okay if others don't use it. Even if I can use it with a few of my friends, I'm fine with it. Uh, in fact, one of the things that people don't know is not just me. Dharmil, who's my co-founder, was also along with me in karting, right? And even he raced with me professionally. So we've been friends since. I mean, we were sitting on the same bench in school. We raced together, and now we are partners in our journey also. Uh, what I try and do in terms of loss of my inability to kart is make up for it in my passion for cars. The only other thing that I feel as strongly about, apart from my business and my family, is cars, and that's my weak spot. Uh, but I think what karting did is, in a lot of ways, prepare me for what was to come ahead. Uh, I think karting is one of the few sports where you get a chance to consistently prove yourself over a period of time. Uh, Unlike most leagues, right? Or it's almost in a league format, right? It's not one race that decides whether you win or lose, right? You have to consistently perform over a period of time, right? Uh, and every single time that you play, it's a different track, right? So most of the most of the tournaments that are in knockout or at individual stages are you win or you lose, you win or you lose. Here, if you lose, it's fine. But the next time you go to win, the conditions are entirely different, right? The karting track in Mumbai is different from a karting track in Chennai and so on and so forth. So every time you are exposed to something new, every time you are exposed to something different, right? And I think a large part of my killer instinct or my ability to continue to push, right? You push for that last microsecond, that last kilometer of speed or the last breaking point, right? I think that passion and perseverance has really, really, really helped me in terms of where I am today, right? And I very strongly believe that if you've excelled in any sport, right, it makes you into a fantastic business person, right? And I think a large part of my success in karting that people don't know about was due to my prior success in skating. So I was if I'm not wrong, district level and Maharashtra level under 5, under 6 skating champion. And I still remember when I was young, my parents used to take me to, at those days, BKC was like a barren area. At 5 in the morning, take me for skating for 2 hours. And my coach was Mr. Virag Patel, I still remember, right? And he used to tell me that the only way you're going to look is ahead, right? And if you, and there's a certain angle at which you are skating, you are bending to go in a certain speed. And if you would come, he would like just whack you, right? Just keep going, right? And I think, but that killer instinct that came from my days in skating helped me in karting. Obviously, I think the most memorable day has also been one of the most scariest days is when I think I was 12 or 13 and I was karting and my mom had no idea what I was doing. Right? My dad knew, my mom thought karting was something similar to dashing cars. That's the only idea of karting that she had. And then she saw I was 12 or 13 and I was driving at more than 120 kilometers on the racetrack. And she literally had like a heart attack, right? That what is happening to my son? He's going to die. He's going to crash, so on and so forth. And she literally pulled me out of that karting track and said, and this was 2 days prior to the first race, right? And then the general manager of the racetrack was there was Mr. Shirke, came and told my mom, I know you're Siddharth's mother. I know you're worried. Don't worry. Your son's going to do fine. And my mom was literally petrified, right? And there were people who were coming in from more established racetracks in Chennai and Hyderabad and so on and so forth. And I was just a rookie. But in my very first race, I came in third, right? But that was like a insane validation. It's almost like somebody entering Formula One for the very first race and coming third in that race, right? It's almost unheard of, right? But I think that was the biggest moment of joy, right? I mean, 2 days ago, my mom was going to literally drag me out saying that you're unfit and you're going to get yourself killed. Uh, and 2 days later, you're at a national level race and you're coming in third, right? I still very, very distinctly remember that. And I still remember I was crying on the podium because for a brief period of time, I was first in the race. And then I lost my leadership because of some stupidity that I did, right? So in spite of coming third, I still remember I was crying on the podium. I was maybe 12 or 13. But I think that is the most vivid memory that I have of my racing career.
I think that probably sums you up best. I mean, you when you were third in the first attempt, and you were still crying that you lost that opportunity to be first, and that probably is probably the best way to sum this whole conversation up. And thank you for being here and talking to me. And I would like to congratulate you again for winning the award, Young Alumni Achiever Award. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about you in the future. And this is just the beginning to a much better and glorious future. And thanks again. And do stay in touch.
Thank you so much once again to the entire institute and everybody who thought that I was fit for this award. The only thing I can say is I hopefully won't let the institute down. And we'll continue to build on this. So thank you once again. And like I said, my journey started for my professional career at the institute. So the fondest memories and the best recognition is when your institute and your alumni recognize it. So thank you once again for giving me this honor.
It was a great pleasure. No, take care.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye.